By mastering the underlying factors of motivation, you can bring balance into your classroom, whether you're teaching virtually or in person. In addition to the psychology and theory underlying motivation, we will also step into practice and provide you with practical tools for your classroom that you can use starting tomorrow.
We know that past trauma can disrupt learning in the present, and there are an increasing number of children, adolescents, and even adults being recognized as having experienced pretty profound trauma in their early lives in their communities. And that's really led to this movement for the trauma-informed classroom and teaching style. And we know that acute stress can be very different to chronic stressors, and some children who really have high levels of chronic stress, even in a low-stress environment, can still demonstrate pretty disrupted mechanisms of learning and an ability to encode and retrieve information. It can be very easily triggered.
Behavior is communication, and we explained previously how traumatized students often communicate feelings through their behavior. Teachers' behavior is also communication, and it may not be communicating the message we are striving to send. Common teacher practices such as ignoring inappropriate behavior, sending students to the office, or sending younger kids to sit alone at a back table or in the hallway can unintentionally trigger students who have experienced abandonment or neglect. We need to remember that when some of our students were young and cried, no one came. Ignoring them can trigger a trauma response and make them feel the teacher doesn't like them or is even happy that they are upset. Instead of ignoring a student when he is expressing anger, such as by crumpling up a paper, growling, or slinging a book from his desk onto the floor, you can respond to such moments in a more positive and productive way. When you notice these behaviors at the beginning of the year, you can validate the student's feelings by saying things like, "I am sorry you are upset," or "I see that you are angry." This is a much more empathetic approach, will preserve the relationship, and will avoid triggering a trauma response in the student.
With declarative language, we make a statement that invites a response and does not require or demand it. Declarative language is a way of phrasing a cue so that the recipient is prompted to think of a solution, not given the solution. Declarative language is commenting or making statements out loud about what we think, notice, remember, feel, wonder about, or observe. For example, "I see your backpack on the floor." Stated this way takes the pressure off the student, invites a response, and develops problem-solving skills. Declarative language is not questioning or commands that have a specific right or wrong answer. It is not demanding. It is flexible and allows for more than one possible way to respond.
Now let's shift to music in the classroom. Everyone's heard of or played musical chairs, but you can also use the same concept to facilitate classroom transition, like switching between lunch, or other subjects to transition between activities within a given lesson. Music can be used to teach time management skills by using a short song during the timed tasks. Additionally, music can also be used to manage energy levels. Four major signs of student stress can be physical, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive. Let's go into these signs in more detail. Many of the physical signs are tied to health-related symptoms because long-term stress can have serious impacts on a student's health. Physical signs of stress you should look for are stomach issues, fatigue, headaches, and recurring illnesses. Stress can also manifest in strong emotions and uncontrolled emotional swings. Students may have shorter patience, may be more negative, or they may be generally overwhelmed. Stress can also affect the way a student behaves. If you have a student that wants to be alone, is not as interested in schoolwork, or appears tired due to lack of sleep, these may all be behavioral signs of chronic stress. A stressed student's academic performance and cognitive ability may suffer as well. Cognitive signs of stress you may see in your students can be issues concentrating or remembering concepts, feeling more worried, or having impaired or reduced judgment. To recap, there are four major signs to look for in student stress. They are physical, emotional, behavioral, and cognitive signs.
adolescence in particular, there is somewhat of an imbalance between development of different parts of the brain. We have a part of the brain called the prefrontal cortex, which is the home of executive functioning. Now, while this part of the brain is indeed maturing, it matures slowly. So it doesn't complete full maturation until the mid-20s or so. However, there's another part of the brain that's very much focused on pleasure seeking and reward and having fun, and this is called the limbic part of the brain, the limbic system. Now, unfortunately, in adolescence, we find that there's an imbalance.
There are 5 core competencies of social-emotional learning as defined or framed by the Collaborative for Academic, Social, and Emotional Learning. They are responsible decision-making, social awareness, self-management, self-awareness, and relationship skills. Our highly stressful world requires children and adolescents to cope with a wide array of negative emotions. Not everyone has the tools to do so. When children learn how to manage and reduce their stress, they achieve better outcomes in school and avoid the development of unhealthy coping mechanisms.